Thank you very much, Amy. Bishop, thank you so much for sending me to that National Eucharistic Congress. Margot's a pretty hard act to follow. She did an awesome job there. I also noticed that when I came in, our pictures were beside each other on the screens. She really makes me look old. So, but back to the Congress. We need 270 deacons to celebrate Mass. That was the start of the introduction letter that I got from the National Eucharistic Congress. And that certainly got my attention. 270 deacons? I couldn't wait to be part of that. And what a blessing it turned out to me. And then when I arrived in Indianapolis, I didn't ride down in the bus. I had other commitments along the way, so I got to drive my own vehicle. So when I arrived at Indianapolis and I got checked into the Sheraton Hotel, I went over to register at this convention center, which was almost as big as Lucas Oil Stadium. It was huge. And I saw this huge line on the outside. People were lined up trying to get through the set of double doors. I'm thinking, this is going to be a long afternoon right here. Out in the sun, it had to be 90 degrees. But people are, as Margot mentioned, they're smiling and they're patient, and well, we'll wait and see. But on my way there, I saw this little sign that said, clergy check-in. Well, I haven't been clergy very long, but I thought I'd give it a shot. So I walked over there and I said, hello, my name's Deacon Curtis. And he said, I got ready to tell him, where I'm from, what I'm doing, and what I wanted to do. Fully expecting them to send me to the back of that line, which halfway around the corner. And it kept getting bigger by the minute. And they said, Deacon Curtis, could we have your driver's license? We need to scan that. And then that quick, I was checked in, and they gave me one of these. It was really neat. It's got Deacon on the bottom, and it was wonderful. And then after I heard about our contingent from Gaylord, took a little time to get them checked in, and I talked to a lot of other people that it took them a long time to get checked in. And I got to be honest, I felt pretty sorry for them, but I felt pretty special. They really took care of the deacons at this place. If I never wanted to be a deacon before, this was wonderful. If I had a question, I had a place to check into. This Clergy Central is called. If I needed water, they had water on ice, these big machines there, or coffee, or sometimes juice. Sometimes you just wanted to sit down and get out of the limelight for a while. I also got to use valet parking at the hotel. There's more to that story in a minute. The deacons had a place to vest before every Mass. And it was really nice to be with other deacons. I was able to meet deacons from all over, from the Philippines to Philadelphia, from Hawaii to Harbor Springs. Deacon Fred was there. It was great to see him. I had dinner the first night there with Jim Noka, and it was nice. I also got to spend a lot of time with Deacon Bob from Lansing, Michigan. He works a lot with Bishop Boyer. Enjoyed the time there, but meeting all these other deacons from all these other areas was really special. It helped me a lot, and there were some really good people out there that are deacons. But then I got asked to write a brief summary about how do you write a brief summary about a week of Jesus? I don't think I can be brief. I was so honored to be allowed to vest at all these Masses. It was every morning. Normally it started with the Rosary, and then there'd be a Mass with 60,000 of our closest friends. It was, the celebrants of the Mass were spectacular speakers. They were obviously chosen very carefully and very correctly. The very first one was Cardinal Timothy Dolan. I've got to change this light here. Excuse me. The good cardinal from New York, you've all seen him on TV or listened to him a lot. He was related a story that was, as he was getting ready to board the plane in New York, there was this overserved gentleman that was also getting ready to board the plane, and he became very loud, and it went on, and this very much overserved person kept talking to the cardinal and to, the other priests and things that were with him, and he kept yelling to his friends about not wanting to go to a place where there's so many Catholics. So finally he asked Cardinal Dolan about that. Where can I go that I won't run into all these Catholics? The Cardinal said, you can go to hell because there's no Catholics there. It received quite a laugh there too. And then the second celebrant the next day was Cardinal Wilton Gregory. The good cardinal is also a gifted speaker, but had a quite different delivery. And the next one, the third day, was an Eastern Rite liturgy. And they called a Quabana, I think that's how it's pronounced, something like that. But it's from India. It's still recognized by the Roman Catholic Church, but it's quite a bit different. And at first, as things are coming up, I looked up and the altar's different. Everything's on a different side, and I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't be here as we're processing in. And then I look behind me, and there's Bishop Walsh coming, and he's got a smile on his face. So, hey, I'm good. And then on the fifth day, the final Mass, the celebrant was the papal delegate, Cardinal Luis Tegel. He's also an extremely gifted orator and extremely funny. But I didn't realize this. The Pope had to tell him to behave on his way to the United States. I don't know if that happens a lot. But processing in and out each morning was an incredible experience, to say the least. We would get vested and then go downstairs, get lined up, and we're going through miles and miles it felt like miles, of caravans and tunnels to get to where we can press out in the crowd. And Margot mentioned something that was often there's a stadium. Lucas Oil Stadium's a big place, and it was full, and it was quiet. There were times when, could have heard a feather float to the ground. And other times the music was so incredible it'd knock you off your feet. It was fantastic to share that time with 60,000 of our closest friends. Watching the seat, and I got to share communion with them. That's what the deacons were there for. Watching people come up. This was one of those close personal moments. And to be sure, there were some people that came up, and it's just a function. It's what they did. It's what they've always done. It was just normal to them. They were going to get through that. But most, and by far most, would come up. They would have tears in their eyes. They would be shaking, just so in love with Jesus Christ as they were coming up to receive the body of Jesus Christ. And you could feel it. You could see the joy in their face, in their body, the way they reacted. And they would take that host. Sometimes an awful lot of this, we would place it on their tongue. That's more than we do here, or more than we do in Sheboygan anyways. But it was just a presence would come over them that was magnificent, and I felt so privileged to be a part of that, even if just for a few moments. I lost count of how many people received the Eucharist with tears and shaking hands. It was as if they felt what we all knew, what we all know, what we believe, what we profess, that it is the body of Jesus Christ right there. That's God that's coming into us, and he wants to share that with us. And that probably should have helped me prepare for the processing on that Saturday, but it didn't. There were thousands of us in the procession, I think close to 4,000, Bishop. And there were tens of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people lining the streets outside. And it was, again, it takes a while to get 4,000 people moving in the same direction, but that happened. Every time you came around a corner, a turn, there'd be prayers and singing. It was about a 1.5 mile procession, and I will admit to you, I spent most of it with tears in my eyes so bad I couldn't recognize people on the side. But I did see these two young ladies right here at one spot. So I've never experienced anything like it. It was, and you would see the joy on people's faces. That's one of the things that I took away from this entire experience, was just the joy that people shared with each other. It lifted each other up. My feet barely touched the ground. It was fantastic. And the hospitality and the respect that was extended to the deacons, time and time again, brought me to my knees. And the breakout sessions, if you've seen some of those, they were incredible. One of the other real perks that the deacons got to do was we had lunch every day right about noon. So after the morning services, you had time to get back, and most of the breakout sessions were already going on. So we'd missed most of the morning breakout sessions, but we could get some of the afternoon ones. I got to admit, it was kind of worth missing a couple of those, because we had lunches that were fantastic. They served us lunches that were bigger than the dinners my wife Jane and I have at night. And almost as good, Jane, almost. They were just, we were treated so nicely, and it was beautiful to see. The hospitality and the respect were just beautiful. And now, I never actually counted if there were 270 deacons, but we could have used more. But along with the 270 deacons, there are also hundreds of seminarians, hundreds of priests, and you couldn't throw a rock for hitting an archbishop. That's just an expression. I never threw a rock at an archbishop in my life. I was so honored and happy to see our own bishop there, along with what seemed like hundreds of his brothers. There were also sisters from all over, seemed to me all over the world. They spoke different languages, and they had such this joy about them. And if you had a question for them, you stopped to talk to them about their order or whatever. They always took the time to spend time with you and answer your questions in depth. This was a truly unique and remarkable experience. Each day seemed to build on the day from the day before. And each experience, each one of these talks seemed to build on the day from the day before. However, unless you think that this was a moment of perfection in time, the world was still going on all while we were there. The second day there, I got a call that one of my closest friends in Sheboygan had passed away. Actually, that sat me right down. He's a very close friend. And that was extremely sad, but only for a few moments. But because it reminded me how precious life is, and that life keeps going on. And a little later that day, that also happened to be the day I ran into the bishop. That was nice to see him. A little later that day, I got a text from the valet at the hotel. I told you there was more to this story. Apparently, they were trying to remodel where they usually put the cars for their valet parking. So they'd rented this area inside a locked fence. And somebody had broken in there that night and broken into a bunch of cars and stolen a whole bunch of stuff. And they asked me, can you come back as soon as possible and inventory your car and see if anything's broken? And they told me that, they smashed the windows on a lot of cars. So I thought, oh, great. So I got back there as quick as I could, but I got to be honest, I didn't hurry because I wasn't going anyplace anyways. There was nothing wrong with my car. It was a car on each side of it had all the windows smashed. And so I got inside and checked mine over. I'm missing a pocket knife. I'm not positive they stole it, or maybe I just lost it someplace, but that's the only thing that was missing. If it was stolen, God bless them, I hope they don't cut themselves, because it was very sharp. But not a mark on the car, not a scratch, none of them. But that does remind me of the highs and lows that we experience when these things are going on. It's just life. Life is going to go on all the time. No matter how high we get to the top of that mountain, there is a valley down there. And we need to have the strength to get through both of these. And all those experiences that I had at the Eucharistic Congress, each and every one of them would be alone by itself enough to make me want to do this again. However, I want to share an experience with you, one of those close personal ones. I saw this not once, not twice, but 3 times that I personally observed this. It would be a single mother with 2 or 3 young children, and there were different ones because it was different areas. And I don't know if the women didn't have husbands or they just weren't with their husbands, but they'd be standing around a homeless person, holding hands and praying. And one of the times they were sitting down beside the homeless person, all holding the homeless person's hands and praying. Then another time was 3 small kids and their mother with their hands around another homeless person, and they were singing. It was beautiful. My first reaction is I want to be part of this. I want to rush right over there and get in there. But I'm thinking, well, this is the God moment for this guy that needs his help, the prayers that these people have. So I prayed, but at a distance. It was such a beautiful act of love. And you could I hate using these same phrases, but you could feel that love coming up from that circle that was there. You could almost see it. And I had never experienced anything like that before. It was beautiful. And if I died tomorrow, I would die with that in my brain, because it was just incredible. But what I can take away from this event is that we cannot let this be a one-time event. And I don't mean that we need to gather 60,000 of our closest friends every weekend for a Mass. That just wouldn't work. But that feeling on one-on-one communion with God that I saw those people share with each other. And that's one thing about the Catholic Church. I think we do this better than anybody else, is that no matter how big that celebration is, when we are receiving God, it's us. It's you and God there. That's it. It's so personal. And I just love that. And we want to remember that no matter how much we want this, God wants it more than we could ever understand. I'm reminded of an example given by Jose Maria Escrivá. He cites as an example 2 people that are truly in love. But they will have to be separated for a time. They are unable to fulfill this desire of remaining close to each other. So they want to seek a symbol to share with each other, to remind the other one of themselves. It might be a picture or a locket. Meaningful symbols, to be sure. Maybe it's a ring. Those are all meaningful. They are symbols, but they are just symbols. Just symbols. Jesus leaves us with so much more. So much more than a symbol. He leaves us his actual body and blood. And we are called, we are urged, we are commanded to share this with the world. Have you done that today? Thank you.